Alright, we're doing it, boys. I'm actually very glad that the bracket worked out in a way that I could actually keep my promise. And this round, I'm gonna present to you the only game in the top 16 that does not contain either stock or talk. And I think it's one of 2 or 3 games total that actually are not just straight up stock matches. So here you go. These are our heroes, the ones who must save us from this oppression. So, in the right-hand corner, hailing from Hungary, I believe, Istvan, and that's the Istvan, so Mr. Desert Raider himself. And on the left-hand side, from Sweden, Peter Lundström. At least I assume he is from Sweden, given his name. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Well, let's just get ready to rumble. And oh my god, I can't believe it. They're like plots I haven't seen all day. It's Calm over Westeros versus Varys' riddle here. And already this game is much better than all of the talk and stock games combined. Alright, let's do it. I'm hyped. I'm hoping you're hyped as well for this. Alright, so I don't even know what to say here. I'm just so happy that this game is not gonna be decided by Mira and some burn, and I think we're just gonna jump right into it. I think the game plans are actually rather straightforward here. Istvan is probably just gonna be building a board, which Tyrell is wont to do, especially the Summer Variation. And then on the other side of the table we have Peter, who's probably just on a very classic approach to Greyjoy, which means large characters and just get in there, destroy the economy, destroy the locations, and overwhelm them that way. Plots to look out for here from Istvan. Probably have to look if he's running Vala Morghulis or Vala Dohaeris. Those are the choices that could be the determining factor in this game. And it really determines how Peter has to commit to the board in order to effectively gain an advantage. So does he go wide with a lot of dupes, or does he keep a couple of characters in his hand to protect against the Dohaeris? Those sort of things. And I think from there it's just going to be a game of building up the board and doing the right challenge math and seeing how you can continually get an advantage in the game. That's also going to be determined on this one side by passive power claim. On Peter's side, I'm trying to disrupt that plan, just get through some location removal on for example that old town, maybe hit some winter plots at the right points to disrupt that passive power claim, and just generally just try to keep Istvan at bay. All right. So I believe that red counter on top of the calm of Westeros is there to tell us that it's currently on military. Certainly a decent choice. All right. There's a sea witch. I guess that's serviceable in this matchup. And it appears that Peter's just very content here, just going for a couple of locations, and it looks like he might be going for Vala soon. But it's also possible that he just says, okay, your board is not that big, you don't even have intrigue this turn, so I'm just gonna stay back and do intrigue myself, and then next turn go with my big economy plot, go with the trade routes, and then flood the board, and we will forget the first round, sort of. So that's very interesting, and it's also difficult for Istvan to gauge what's actually going to happen here, because it could either be a Vala next turn, or it could be just the economy plot. And okay, maybe it's not Vala next turn, but Peter could also play a stalling plot and delay the Vala for one turn and sort of get him that way. But this one also has to account for the fact that Peter might just explode next round. So, fairly interesting dynamic there. And it's going to be interesting how Istvan reacts to that next turn, which is certainly going to be reflected in his plot choice there. Alright, now we're gonna see what Istvan puts Peter on here. I believe he'll just say, alright, you're gonna flood the board. And that's the game plan here. Because it just seems very risky for Peter to just go for the stalling tactic and try to gain an advantage that way by delaying a Vala and then maybe doing the Vala turn after. But I mean, forced march here is a very real possibility for Peter. Forced march also makes Istvan the first player, so it's really difficult, really, for him to commit to the board. But yeah, that's really the key question right now, and here we go. Okay, so Peter actually not going for a high initiative plot to keep Istvan guessing, and also not really going for a high economy plot. I mean, Time for Plenty is fairly high in economy, but it's sort of middling, given what Istvan has already committed to the board. So it's giving Peter another draw though. So maybe he just doesn't have very many characters in his hand right now, and he can't directly go for his game plan and has to sort of bide his time for him to find a couple of good characters, and then he can go and actually put his plan into action. I guess it's interesting that Istvan is actually going first here. I sort of would have expected him to make Peter first player, but I guess Istvan wants to seize the initiative here. Perhaps prevent Peter from just dropping perhaps 2 warships that so the Iron Fleet Scouts, which give more strength as his first player. But I think it would have been more valuable for Istvan to observe the situation here, get a read on what Peter is doing. Except, of course, if that character in Shadows for Peter is a Nighttime Marauders, then it's probably better to go first. And I guess Istvan is assessing the situation and he's saying, okay, if Peter is going first and he has the Nighttime Marauders and he hits what he actually needs to hit, then that's going to be really difficult to come back from. So he's saying, okay, I'm going to take a slightly worse turn on average, if that's not a Nighttime Marauders, just to be safe against that. And I guess that's a perfectly reasonable approach here. Because you also have to realize that this is a one-off game. It's a best of one for advancement. So you really have to play a little bit more safe, because one misstep and you're just out of it. SG Thrones has been watching a replay of the top 32, thinking it was live. Yeah, I mean, I've been watching replays of the third round or fourth round of Swiss for the last 8 hours, thinking it was live. But I think might have just been a dream. There can't actually be that many Stark and Targaryen players in the top 16, right? All right, so tactical deployment by Istvan here. He's got a very good character in the Septon here that allows him to trigger the Old Town. I mean, we're probably all familiar with the combo. And it also doesn't commit him hugely to the board. It makes it so if Peter were to just pass here and Vala next turn wouldn't hit him too hard, because he gets a character back, he draws another card. So that would be fair, but not too destructive for Istvan. And he's also got left and right now, so now it's looking not optimal that he's first player, but I think it was still probably a good play to play around the Nighttime Marauders there. And there's an Aemon. Okay. I'm just being informed that I missed that there are 2 initiative giving locations for Peter up there. So he actually chose this one to be first player. So that renders that a moot point. But couldn't have told me earlier, could you? Okay. I could have also just read the chat. Yeah. Man, it's fairly late here as well. I mean, I'm not trying to invoke your sorrow, but I mean, casting these games non-stop is almost as taxing as playing them. So I do apologize if I get something wrong here and there occasionally now. Alright, so if Peter won the initiative, that's certainly the correct play to make Istvan first player, because of course you want to let him be in the dark here. Alright. Yeah, not reading the chat, are we? I'm not really that good at multitasking. Alright, but at least we had a very good theoretical discussion of what would have been a decent play if Istvan had actually won initiative. So you gotta cover your bases, right? Gotta think about stuff here and there and just assess different situations, even if they're purely theoretical. I should stop talking now. Alright, so there goes a power challenge. I think Peter's just interested in keeping this balance standing and getting his 2 challenges in. Although that might actually not be that effective against left and right. So, yeah, Yeah, I guess I agree with the with him defending here. Left and right really make attacking sort of difficult. Alright. And the Nightmares from Istvan actually pushes through that challenge. Nicely done. And he's slowly but steadily actually strike that. He's not slowly, he's steadily gaining power here. So Peter will have to do something pretty quickly actually. Alright. So there goes that Septon trigger. Even winning Istvan dominance. Very nice there. And he gets the Old Town trigger as well. In a minute there. I believe he should be triggering it in Taxation, because he now knows the top card of this deck. And it's fairly likely that the next plot for Peter is gonna be the King plot. So that would mean that Istvan doesn't get to trigger the Old Town next turn anyway, so he probably should just do it now, right? Or did he already trigger it? Did he already trigger it? The Old Town? Because now he knows that the Septon is the top card.
I think he stole it with the sea birch.
Ah, okay.
But I don't know if it was out after that.
Hmm.
I don't know if he used it, but I think he did.
So Peter stole the Old Town with the Sea Birch, but that shouldn't prevent Istvan from triggering it during standing, right? And I don't think there's any downside to triggering it if the Septon is still on top, right? Yeah, I think he's forgotten it. But oh well. Yeah, didn't get punished for it because there's Vala Morghulis and not the King plot. He should still at least use it in plot though, because that's the last time when he actually knows what's on top of his deck. I mean, I guess he can just play the Septon again and trigger it then in challenges, but that just gives Peter an opportunity to find another Sea Bitch and take control over it again. Alright. Pretty nice turn for Istvan, though, because he gets to... I'm really not paying attention anymore. Peter won initiative again, so he was actually... I think he won initiative, right? Yeah, he won initiative, so... He could make himself first player, and that's why Istvan got one fewer goals. Okay, I got it now. We're hanging in there. I'm gonna learn that these hulks provide initiative somewhere down the line, but it's just too difficult. Like these cards don't even have white or black borders, but I think I can't cope here. Okay, nicely done here by Istvan. Really important to see what Istvan... Oh, there's another pleasure botch. Is that the third pleasure botch this game? That's obscene. No, there are different locations under there. Okay. Alright. I think he should still have a Septon, so I'd be surprised to see him not play anything here. So, I mean, he's at least gonna play the Septon, right? Somewhat dangerous though, because I think Peter might be able to push through 3 challenges this turn, and Istvan only has 2 characters, right? So there might be an unopposed challenge coming in for Peter, and if that arbor gets hit by a we do not sow, that could be rough for Istvan. But I mean, currently Peter doesn't have an intrigue icon, so Istvan is fairly safe here, unless Peter has like an old Billbone in Shadows or something. Alright, so Istvan's taking his chances here because against Old Billbone, plus we do not so the arbor gets hit, but other than that I think that play was fairly safe. Alright, there's a power challenge for quite a bit, but I don't think Istvan actually cares all that much. Peter probably just triggering Bellin there for style points. I can't believe that actually matters here. Wow, nice. Is that gonna bounce him? That's 5 strength against 5, 4, 5. Yeah, that's exactsies, right? Oh, okay. He has the trigger, so he loses only by 4. Now, can Peters do something to get that last bit of strength? No, I don't actually believe so. So that shouldn't be able to bounce him. Yeah. And he doesn't have claim. And no old Billbone or any sort of other shenanigans. Yeah. And now Istvan should really be able to deploy his entire hand, which is quite stuck, I must imagine. He's got the arbor. He's got a million gold producers. Although I think 2 of those are pleasure barges, so okay, and there's the king plot. But Istvan is probably running the king attachment as well. I believe he's also running Renly, certainly, so there are some outs for Istvan here. And I mean, most of his economy locations are gold producers anyway, so he doesn't care too much about that king plot. Still not his favorite, probably, but you know, it could be worse. I think Istvan is just looking to survive this turn. Just put a lot of strength on the board, oppose all the challenges in a way that Peter doesn't get to bounce the mace, and you should be looking all right. But there's a card. Oh god. The names. What are the names? Euron Crozet. And now it would be really interesting to see what Istvan has in his discard pile, but I don't imagine it's too much, actually. There he attempts to trigger a location. And that actually works now because he has a king. Okay, so that was the out that we were talking about earlier. So now all of his locations are turned on again. Alright, and there's the Septon. Okay. And he should be able to defend the challenges here, right? I mean, Balon can give some amount of strength support, but that shouldn't be enough to to really do anything here. And this is actually a very nice position for Istvan, I believe, because the downside on Renly doesn't really matter anymore because Valar's already been played. And the downside on Balin is actually quite real here because he will kneel for his military challenges for the remainder of the game, presumably. Ah, okay, so he hit Econ earlier with We Do Not Sow. So Euron can get at least that. It's not... I don't think that's terrible for Istvan though. He doesn't have any... He has all his key locations out at this point, so... Yeah, Euron is always good, but I don't think he's game-breaking on this board. So Istvan can just take a hit and just try to maneuver his way around the pinch, and he should be fine, right? And then next turn he can just play whatever, really, as for a plot, and then go finish the game with Renly and the renown that he provides. Alright. So Peter now has to figure out how he can effectively kneel Istvan out, because he doesn't want to allow Istvan to get any challenges back at him. So he at least has to put him into a situation where Istvan has to over-defend in order to protect his characters. But still really difficult. Like, Istvan also has strength pumps on his side of the board, so Peter doesn't really have an action advantage in that way, and all of his characters kneel to do challenges, so it's really tough to get Istvan here. I think he's played a very solid game, and he's now in a position where Peter can't really do any challenges without immediate repercussions. Yeah, I think that's one way to approach it. Just play defensively and try to trigger the maze until you win. Yeah. So here's a power challenge, and I believe that is to force Istvan to use most of his big characters to oppose it, even though he can't win it. Or can he actually win it? That's 10 strength, 10, 15 potentially plus 2, so 17 potentially. And Istvan can defend for 11, 13, so he could theoretically prevent the trigger there for the pinch. Also, he also has another strength pump there with the Arbor Marketplace. Now, let's see if he actually wants to do that. Alright, he draws a card. Gets 2 gold. Yeah, maybe he has another event in hand that can help him here. Perhaps like a Growing Strong. Oh, or Nightmares. That also works. Well, that doesn't really prevent the challenge, but it helps against Euron for sure. Oh, nice. So Istvan actually didn't respect the pinch here, and he gets a second pinch on this Renly, and this is gonna hurt now, because Istvan was going for the tempo play there, trying to hit Peter back, but he had a second pinch, so now that plan just kind of fails, and Peter gets ahead by 7 gold. Just by this play alone. That was quite the pinch. He was kind of luring Istvan into a position where he felt safe, because there was already a pinch on the board, and so he didn't consider the second pinch out of shadows there. But yeah, that pinch is non-unique. You can just go and trigger them 3 times if you have all of them. Alright, so that was a really big swing there. Yep. Chet actually pointing out that Mace could have potentially flickered the Renly there to get rid of the pinch, and I think that might have actually been the play. Is there anything wrong about that? No, you can trigger it while he's in play. Yeah, that probably would have been the play. But I think this is sort of the situation that can snowball in a cut game when you've played for so many hours already. Because at the moment where something you didn't consider occurs, you tend to not act calmly and think through all the possible ramifications of the action that just took place. You just panic because something that you didn't expect happened, and that's incredibly bad, and so you don't see the out to the situation that's been created. And I think that's what happened to Istvan here. And I mean, to be fair, these guys have been playing for more than 12 hours today, so at some point you just start making mistakes. It's just natural. And it's interesting because that creates a dynamic where if your deck has ways that where you can easily benefit from an opponent's mistake, like with Pinch of Powder, for example, then that makes your deck much better in the later stages of the tournament. So that's a little interesting deck building dynamic, and I think Peter Lundström just playing to his outs here, and he found a way to put Istvan into a compromising position actually. And now it's going to be interesting how Istvan reacts, but I've got to imagine he has Valor or something, right? And then he just has to hope that Peter doesn't have another Saith. Oh, so no Valor. Okay. It's going to be difficult now, because now Istvan really cannot lose another power or intrigue challenge by 5, because he has no dupes anymore. If he now loses an intrigue challenge or a power challenge for 5, he loses everything on his side of the board. I mean, Wardens of the South helps with that, so it's not looking too grim, but there's some potential for Peter now, which I believe wasn't there just a round ago. That being said, Istvan, of course, still generating obscene amounts of economy here. I believe he's going to get +4, so that's -2, so +2, but then he also has the Vineyard, so that's going to be +4. It's going to be at 8. And he's got a full grip as far as I can tell. Maybe at this point you're not deploying Renly anymore because it's too dangerous. Maybe you're just going for a couple of small characters and try to wiggle your way through the challenges phase instead of just playing a big dude and trying to stomp that way. Yeah. It's possible that Peter had a glimpse of Istvan's deck list early on. Maybe you've seen him play early on and he knows that he doesn't run Vala or something. That might be a reason why that might be a reason why he's using his saves so deliberately. But yeah, those are the sort of mind games that you can't really follow because they involve some out-of-game information. But It's also possible that he just, as you already said, just figured that he couldn't win if Istvan had Vala, so he just decided to go for it. And now this is actually looking pretty nice for Peter. He's got that cancel over there. He's got the pinch and shadows, I believe. Yeah, there's the pinch. Assume that's the pinch, but he has 1 gold. Does he have 1 gold left? No, he doesn't actually have a gold left. So that's still tough. That dupe on May certainly helps, because that prevents Istvan from running into another devastating pinch turn here. So Istvan can be a little bit more lenient. He can develop a board more in a way that he feels will be advantageous going forward, instead of just having to commit everything to preventing a pinch trigger. Alright. So there's a Knight of Summer, and still gonna leave a couple more gold, I believe. Or it's just gonna pass. Perhaps Istvan could also have just be holding strength pumps in his hand. So let's see if he's got something else. Alright. Oh wow, I didn't even realize that up until this point, but clearing that king off the board was hugely beneficial for Peter, because now Balin gets to attack without kneeling, and that's a big game, because on this board, just not having to commit to a challenge at all and still getting it is just huge game. Alright. Istvan going. I think that's the most reasonable thing here. Perhaps it's also just an old-time informer with 3 gold bestowed upon it, so that he can filter his hand and maybe try and dig for some answers. I think, for example, Randall would be really nice on this board. Just he already has one of the Arbor marketplaces, so he has already 1 stand for it, and just being able to repeatedly put 1 character into a challenge, pretty good here, as the non-kneeling Balin has already demonstrated. Alright, there's a power challenge. And that's for 12, potentially 13. And Istvan can currently defend for 7, 8. So this is just inside of that pinch of powder range. At least if I'm not miscalculating. So this is 5 plus the trigger is 7 plus the Arbor marketplace there is 8. And yeah, that should be 5, 8. Oh yeah. And he did have a gold. Where did he put his gold? I didn't see his gold. I'm calling hacks.
No, he put it on the his plots pile.
Alright, now this could be devastating, because yeah, this is 10, 14, potentially 15 against, yeah, Istvan can't prevent that. And here go 2 pinches. Yikes. And the problem with Peter being able to trigger the pinches each turn is also that he's not drawing any cards. If Peter didn't trigger the pinches for like one turn, he wouldn't have anything to play on the following turn. Alright, so this one played something there. I can't identify that. Plus 10? Alright. Okay, so that saves him from the pinch trigger for sure. Might of the Reach there. Alright. Might of the Reach. So, okay. Istvan Might of the Reaching there. Certainly mightily reaching to win this game at this point. He's pretty much against the ropes. He still has the power advantage, so tough to call this one. I think it's really going to come down to whether Peter can actually push through an intrigue or a power challenge that bounces Istvan's entire board. Alright, so yeah. Yeah, that Might of the Reach was pretty good for the power challenge, but yeah. The intrigue challenge puts through the pinch anyway. I guess Istvan prevented him from getting I guess Istvan prevented him from getting oh wait, no, the double trigger on the pinch doesn't actually matter, so yeah. I guess he prevented him from gaining the power on the challenge, but still looking really dire right now because he's not in a position right now on board to actually prevent the next pinch trigger, and that's just probably gonna do him in. But as I already mentioned earlier, like if he could have just prevented one turn, I would have stranded Peter with basically no cards in hand and nothing to do for one turn, and from there on out it would have just gotten bare for this one. So tough luck there. And now here comes you win or you die, and that's gonna be tough to beat here because Peter, I assume, is gonna go first, and then really gonna put the nail in the coffin, bouncing potentially everything Istvan has on his side of the board, barring maybe the right or left or whatever is left there. Hope I'm right. Alright, there's a duplicate for Old Town. That's actually pretty good right now. I think Peter must have been forced to give him that. So, also a very interesting decision between very interesting decision between the crown here and the pinch, because the pinch gives Istvan some potential to swing back if he somehow manages to fade the pinch challenges of Peter this turn. But it doesn't actually help Istvan stabilize the board. So you might be able to get away with it if Istvan just has nothing left after Peter's challenges. But on the other hand, it has the highest comeback potential for Istvan. But then the crown just gives Istvan an easy way to potentially prevent his characters from getting bounced. So it's gonna be interesting what Peter actually ends up giving Istvan here. If he values the stable choice more, or the choice that allows him to go for an easy win. or potentially easy win if Istvan can't muster the strength to prevent the intrigue challenges or the power challenges. All right, so he goes for the. Yeah, he goes for the lower risk play here, which it's probably what you even if you calculate through what the right percentages are there, I think you just go for the play that has less variance in general in this situation, because I think Peter is in a commanding position right now if he can maneuver his way through this turn correctly. So I think he just wants to reduce variance in the game so that more outcomes lead to him actually still being ahead. Alright. So I think we've at this point have probably established that Istvan is not running Vala Morghulis. So Peter's just going to play everything he has in his hand and say go and hope that's good. Alright, so that's a good start. I'd really like to see an Asha for Peter here, but I guess you can't have everything. That's still good, though. Bust the Aemon and adds more strength to the board for power and intrigue as well. Alright. Interesting. He keeps 4 gold here. Oh, okay, he already played the pinch again. I thought he still had it in hand, but he put it in shadows. Okay, so he's probably just doesn't have anything else in hand that he can actually play. I think he stole something. I think he stole the red wine straits that's lying there. Not exactly sure. I'm sure Euron was blanked one of the turns, so he couldn't steal on that turn, and he's got 1 location, so that seems about right, but I didn't keep track of it exactly. Okay, so there's the Renly. There's the crown. And I think it's just going to come down to Peter going in for a massive power challenge here, or massive intrigue challenge, and just putting that pinch on Renly and hope that's good enough. Istvan still with that 3 gold. I mean, if he has another Might of the Reach, he might be able to do it actually here and avoid the pinch triggers. Let's see, what does Peter have for power this turn? He's got 5, 10, 12, 13, 19, 20, 23. I think the Drowned Gut dude also buffs himself, so 24 plus potential trigger is 26 on the power there. And Istvan has 11, 12, 18 plus potential shenanigans if he returns his Septon. So I think Istvan pretty much needs the Might of the Reach in order to save his guys this turn. If Peter just goes in and does power with everyone. And of course, it's also a very valid strategy to go power with some and then wreck Istvan on intrigue, just like last turn. But yeah, the Crown and Renly certainly helping here, because the Crown effectively gives Renly +6 strength. So the thing is, I think Istvan can't win the power challenge even if he has Might of the Reach, because that still just puts him at what? 12, 17, 18, 28? Oh, it puts him at 28 strength. That might actually be sufficient to win the power challenge. Oh god, now I have to do the challenge math for Peter again. God damn it. 11. Okay, 11, 13, 18. 18 plus another 4 is 22. 28. Is that exactly not enough? And he was 11 plus 6 is 17, 18, 28. Yeah, I think it's 28 to 28 actually if Peter goes for the power challenge with everyone. So, Istvan still wouldn't win the power challenge even with a Might of the Reach here. So I don't think there's actually anything discouraging you from just going all in on the power. But the thing is, as already mentioned, these guys have played for so long today. It's difficult to just do the math and be absolutely certain you haven't missed anything. And even I'm unsure if I haven't missed anything. There's so much stuff going on the board. For example, Istvan could have a second location that buff strength lurking under his pile of income locations there. So yeah, really tough to make this calculation here, especially if it's really just 1 or 2 points strength difference. And well, a lot depends on it here, because if Peter doesn't win the power challenge and he goes all in, then it's looking pretty good for Istvan. Yeah, I think Peter's gonna spend quite some time in the tank here, because he wants to make absolutely sure that he doesn't miscalculate this. But if the power challenge actually leads to direct victory even against the Might of the Reach, I think it actually is the correct play to do so. The question is, can you do an intrigue challenge here? And I actually don't believe you can. Because if you go intrigue with like Euron, Istvan can just oppose with the Septon, who's going up to 3 strength, which is then 3 strength to 6, and Peter can't get above that. Then he gets an additional 3 if he adds either the Drowned God guy or the Begging Brothers. But if he goes in for 9, then Istvan can just oppose with Mace here, which means that no matter what Peter does, that isn't the power challenge with everyone, Istvan gets to gain strength effectively, because he only needs to defend so that he doesn't lose against the pinch. So if Peter does a challenge that doesn't lead to Istvan getting pinched and kneel out his entire board, Istvan is actually gaining strength on board, because every point that he loses by that doesn't actually lead to pinches being triggered is actually beneficial for Istvan. So yeah, I think the correct call might actually just be going for that power challenge. And I mean, there are other things that Istvan could potentially hold. I think he could hold growing strong or something. You just have to make the math for that as well. What is happening if he has growing strong? He's probably gonna trigger it on. Okay, so there's an intrigue challenge. This one is for 12, potentially 13. So I think 13. And the power challenge is gonna be for 10 plus 1 is 11. So Istvan should be able to just oppose this 6, 12, 13. Istvan should be able to oppose this with mace and the Septon, if I'm not mistaken, right? And that also frees up the Septon to go back to his deck and give him 2 additional gold. So that's 7, 8. 8 versus 12, 13. Oh no, that's just out of range there. Okay, so Istvan. Yeah, okay, so Istvan has to use Renly, I guess, then. He uses Renly and then discards 2 cards, which puts him at 12. Then Peter does the power challenge, which is 10, 11. So Istvan has to oppose with the other 2 characters. So that leads to Istvan not getting pinched this turn. But that's actually, is that good or bad for Istvan? He's losing both challenges, but he's not getting pinched. If only there were a way to get around using Renly here. Because if you can use the Septum somehow, then you're actually in much better shape, because you can use the Septum then and potentially trigger like a Might of the Reach or something. But I personally don't think there's a way to prevent Renly having to actually participate here. Yeah. And that's bad, because you can't even attempt to win the challenge. You have to oppose with Renly, because otherwise you don't have enough strength to prevent the pinches on the power challenge. So, yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I like this play more or just the all-out power challenge. The all-out power challenge has the advantage that if Istvan does not have Might of the Reach, then he gets destroyed immediately. But this line has less potential to going critically wrong, I suppose. Although, if Istvan has a growing strong here, he could potentially just growing strong and then put Mace plus the Septon into the challenge, which would be quite good, I believe, because then he could actually defend the power challenge, because the power challenge is coming in for 12, and if Renly is still standing, he can defend for 13. Oh no, the power challenge is actually coming in for 12 as well. Okay, so Istvan can't win the power challenge. I forgot about the static +1 on the I forgot about the static +1 for the Drowned God characters. Okay. Man, this is tough. But yeah. I think if Istvan doesn't have any tricks, he doesn't get around just opposing with Renly here. And I know that sucks, but Okay. Alright, so there's the growing strong. Oh yeah, but the growing strong can also target Renly. Alright, so then he has enough to win the power challenge, of course. Okay. Alright. So now he can defend the power challenge. It's not going to be anything going back to hand this turn. Let's just see. That would have been 12, 13, 13, 17, 17, 22, 22, 26 against the all-out power challenge. Yeah. So I think, given what Istvan had in hand, the all-out power challenge would have been better, but yeah. That's just very complicated, and it's very late, and I also can understand that nobody wants to go all in here on a challenge that if you lose it, you lose the game. And Istvan could have had all sorts of tricks in his hand, of course. So yeah. But I think now Istvan is actually in a decent position, because he's not going to be losing this this power challenge, I believe. The power challenge is coming in for 11, 12, 13, but Istvan has 14 naturally now if he discards 2 cards. And I'm not even sure if you can actually do the power challenge here. I guess at this point you just have to chump power challenge with the fishmonger, which just feels bad, but I guess you power challenge with Aemon, because that at least forces Istvan to defend the challenge, because otherwise there's still pinch going. But yeah. Not sure. I think if you're Peter here, you just have to go for the power challenge with Aemon. Just send Aemon in, kneel Renly. Feels terrible, but I think that's the only way to do it. So yeah. I mean, you can't let Istvan challenge, right? Because Istvan is just gonna do power against you. That's much worse than just throwing away a power challenge and giving Renly 1 point of renown, right? So yeah. I mean, Peter weighing his options here, but he can't win the power challenge, and if you can't win the power challenge, you should get the most you can out of the challenge, which is just kneeling Renly. I know this is a difficult spot, because I know it feels terrible to make that play here, but it's actually the correct play if he doesn't have anything else in hand, which I can't believe he does. Gibt's eigentlich einen Zeitlimit für die Runde? Okay. And the other thing is that there's actually a time limit for this round as well, just a normal time limit. So if Istvan doesn't get wiped here, he's ahead in power, and he's got Mace on board, so if he can just stabilize, it's going to be really tough for Peter to do anything. All right, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen any minute now. He's gonna do the power challenge with Eamon. The problem is that I don't think military does anything. Istvan just says, "Okay, I oppose," and claims left or right, whatever. There it is. Okay, and he passes. If Istvan also has, like, if Istvan also has an Old-Tome Informer here, he also gets to claim an additional power for unopposed, which would be quite nice. Although I suppose winning dominance is more important for Istvan here, given that there is an Eamon on the board. Not actually sure what Peter has in his dead pile right now. So, yeah, I think Istvan is just gonna pass and take Dom. And he wins the power challenge, gets to draw a card of Renly. It's good stuff for Istvan right now. Honestly, just yeah, and there it is. Peter wins. Couldn't pierce the defenses of Istvan there in the last turn, but honestly, that was one hell of a match. Especially those last two turns, where you just have a million strength buffs on the board, and you have to navigate your way through that. But yeah, Istvan prevails. He had a shaky turn there, where he got Renly bounced by the pinch, but yeah, just worked out really nicely in the end because Peter couldn't get through his big wall of characters. All right, so that's gonna be it for us today. Top 8 is gonna start tomorrow at at I think about 9:30 a.m., which is in about 6 hours, so it's not going to be much sleep for anyone here. But yeah, I need bed, and see you tomorrow, I guess.
Wer hat jetzt die Hand ausgestreckt? Ich habe das gerade nicht gesehen.
Istvan hat gewonnen.
Istvan hat gewonnen?